Hi everyone, one more time to Football Talks with Ultrax. My name is Marko Matushinsky, and today with us we have again one special guest, Johan. Johan, hi, and welcome to Ultrax Football Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, man, to talk with you and to discuss. I will just start shortly how we met. But I think that we already talked on in few different, like in few countries. We talked in Spain, in Sweden, and this is how we started the whole thing. I think it was FSI Conference. I heard your talk. We met there. Then you call us to Sweden, Marco and I, and this is how we started to do things. And first of all, I would like to say that you're, and to everybody who will listen, that we have a great professional today, and that you will all hear a lot of good things on the topics that we will cover. And the topics are communication, organization, preseason testing, programming, strength training, and all of the important stuff in football. But before we start, again, Johan, thank you for your time, for being here with us. And can you tell us more about yourself? How you start your journey as a coach, what is your background, and what is your current position?
Yes, okay, thank you. Well, my journey is that I'm a former player at semi-professional level, and somewhere around 13 to 15-year-old, I developed more of a passion for strength and conditioning as a player when I was what is now with a close friend of mine during like the 7th or 9th grade. And this time in school, we were both sort of attended a sports class school. We're having 6 to 9 lessons a week with physical education. And it was a great time, basically meaning that we had physical education every day with a huge variety from track and field, dance, ball sports, orienteering, strength and conditioning. So we were both quite small players, and we started to try to exchange ideas, train extra in order to be the best version of ourselves, which I believe like planted a seed. And during my final years of my so-called career at semi-professional level, I suffered some knee injuries at that time in the Swedish third tier. So I started to educate myself with a master's in physical education, but also then switched over more towards sort of coaching with a bachelor's in sports science, along with also taking over as a fitness and assistant coach in the team that I just played with. So the interest just grew from there. So conclusion was that the spark came from like a variety of sports in general and developed into the specificity of football and football fitness. And after this, I've worked as a fitness coach and in the semi-professional professional men's and women's game with different clubs. And at the moment, I'm working with the Swedish FA as a football fitness specialist. So this means working both as a fitness coach for national teams, as well as working with coach education in the UEFA core program, but also with the specialist courses like UEFA Fitness A course, which we developed in 2021.
I can just say that you have an amazing experience. Male teams, female teams, national teams, education, physical conditioning, like a combination of everything. And I remember before 2 or 3 years when we were like selecting coaches who will work in our club, these things that you said, like a passion, experience, and these kind of things were important. But when they told us also that they were former players and they had some kind of an injury, this was always like a bonus for me, because he played the game, he understands the game, he studied good literature, he had a great experience, and if you had an injury, you need to rehabilitate yourself. So this is like a step up on the whole thing. But I would like to ask you a question about this. I don't know where to start because your experience is amazing, but let's go from the beginning. Like you said, you're a former football player, and how this, like you were a player, how this helped you in your career as a physical coach? Is this something that helps you in your decision making and your daily work?
Yes, great question. Well, the advantage of being a former player is, of course, that it relate to things, hopefully in a wider perspective due to the understanding of the game from within. But at the same time, I need to stay zoomed out and not let only like my previous experiences sort of cloud my way of thinking. So the combination of university degree, which supported a more scientific or evidence-informed way of structuring things, along with more specific education as a fitness coach and a football coach, with taking like the core program of football coaching, other coach educations like football coach evolution, exos, and have hopefully contributed to the ability to coach more strategically, aka more proactive than reactive, if you could say so. So
this is important. What you said, reactive. Not just proactive. When the thing's happening, we want to be reactive.
Yeah, but in the same time, if you plan before, then you can if you stay proactive, then you can be reactive rather than just be reactive in itself.
Yeah, that's right. So this is what I meant. Yeah, perfect. I think this is a good way that we dive into the first question. And the first topic, like I mentioned, is about communication and organization. Now, in the last 1 month, we noticed a lot of publications on the topic of communication, how communication is important in injury prevention, in decreasement of hamstring injuries, and these kind of things. And you worked in football, and I also the last 15 years, and we know how communication is important. But how do you organize communication with your team members and players? And let's say, how do you manage different personality types, in the whole team surrounding?
Yeah, well, I believe the importance of having like a shared vision and structure with clearly defined roles and responsibilities is number one for any organization. This then can lead to can be specific to each club or organization to tailor the multidisciplinary teams and roles needed to fit the purpose. So the coaching staff with different skill sets, as head coach, assistant coach, fitness coach, analysis, medical team, football psychology, we all need to be aligned with a shared reference. And from this, you build on what's expected on each and every one on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So that's sort of, it takes time, but it's coming from teaching. So like when you're a teacher, the amount of work you do before the students arrive, you have as an upper hand when then the students arrive, because that's where the business is about the students, or in this case the players. So in the communication with the players, I believe it's vital. What I was sort of maybe having that from a coaching perspective, down to practice what you preach, and the players don't care how much you know until they know you care. So I can have the best program in the world, but the players, they will not buy into it if I can't explain it well enough. So
to educate them, yeah.
So it's how you meet the person, you meet the person as a starting point to build or gain trust, and then you can grow from there.
That's it. I think this is very important point that you mentioned, and the education and the buy-in of the team members and the players. And I think that we can do this only with our level of knowledge, but also with our personality. And this is important in the whole communication thing. And to get back a little bit on the organization, let's say organization or the difference of organization in the club setting and national team setting, for the physical coach. So how does one day for you looks like, when you come to the office, what you do first, do you check any kind of, data, when do you go to the gym and this kind of thing. So how one day in your daily work looks like?
Well, it depends. Like I said, in the role as we now have, I work both with coach education and then with sort of as a national team fitness coach, and then as a fitness coach, then it looks quite similar to what you have in a club environment. But of course, you have everything that goes on pre-national team camps, and then you have during national team camps, and then post-camps. So that's 3 different areas of activities. How you work. Yeah. So pre-national team camps, it's about communicating with the players, with the clubs, to get as good, you could say, picture of where are they coming from, and where are they when we sort of receive and take over the players, you could say, responsibility for them from the clubs. So here we value extremely the input we can get from clubs and players, because we have this shared responsibility of the players. So that means that you, of course, have many direct contacts, or we also try to get information about training and games, and if they have any complications in that sense. When it comes to the national team camps, it's all down to how many games, what do we face in terms of qualifications or training games, and then you plan the microcycle together with most often the national team coach, and then you structure the microcycle, like I said, and then try to be very, very efficient in everything that you do, in terms of that you're not working with the multidisciplinary team on a daily basis. So that means that your time to establish a rapport with players, but also with colleagues and staff, has to be really, really quick. So every day when it comes to the national team camps, we'll start with having a overview of the day, and each training session, and then it will then look quite similar in terms of the club structure, where you have wellness reports from the players. We assess, and then you assess if there's any question marks, and then you go to the training, and then you're starting with the pre-activation, preparation training. You do training, and then the review of training, and the post-analysis of training, and then also games, and then you micromanage that into the next day, and then you just move on.
I would like to stay a little bit more, as you already mentioned, the topic about collecting the data and monitoring, as you explained the whole cycle. And I remember when I was back in U21, that when I get like 25 different reports in different modules, like someone sent me the report in Excel from one club. Then from one club, I'm getting a PDF report. From the third club, I'm getting a Word report, and when you need to make sense of all of this kind of data that you collect before the camp, how you get this thing easier for yourself, how you do this kind of analysis. And when it comes to monitoring, how do you approach to this? What is your philosophy? What kind of data do you collect, and how do you use this kind of data?
Well, it's a good question. It's like you said, when you're communicating with clubs and players, you get a ton of data in, and we try to sort of apply or structure sort of the 4 pillars of, like mentioned from maybe the football research group, in terms of key factors to keep players on the pitch and reduce injuries, like the player load, the player wellness, leadership style, internal communication. But those are just words if we don't sort of channel it down to to what we can do. So, like you said, on the forehand of a camp, we need, of course, sort of make sense of that data that comes into us, and have some sort of strategic way of working with our athlete management. And within the FA, we have one set of athlete management system that we then use, and then we sort of try to have during the camp to optimizing the load in terms of demands of the game for the players, and also
That's
the individual positions. So what you do on a club level is probably how can we build robust players and at the same time keep availability close to benchmark, like roughly 90%. Here it's more about maintaining and trying to maintain players over time during the duration. It's not about training people, especially for robustness in that sense. It's more about maybe compensating if you're not starting or not. In terms of player wellness, so how do we work with the recovery in terms of nutrition, sleep, downtime? How is the individual player managing their wellness? So wellness questions on a team level, of course, but also making sure that we follow trends and anomalies, and also importantly, player communication on an individual level, so that they can see that it's a feedback loop. And then with the leadership style, of course, falls down to the setting of the national team. How is input from different professionals valued and taken into account in regards to planning and so forth, which is the same as in a club. And then the internal communication that we just discussed. How is information shared on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, from coach to coach, but also from coach to medical and from coach to player. So all of these, you could say, pillars, they can be adopted or applied into both the national team setting and also club setting. It's just the time perspective that sort of change, of course.
Yeah, again, we get back to the communication and organization thing. That is also the important thing, and especially when it comes to monitoring, because we collect a lot of data, and then we need to spread this data to everybody, the main stakeholders, players, staff members. So yeah, this part is quite important. And to stay a little bit more to the monitoring thing, and get a little bit more into depth about the methods, you mentioned wellness. And in the FA or in clubs that you worked, have you used RP methodology, GPS, heart rate, or any kind of combination? And how do you, let's say, interpret those data to yourself?
Yeah, as far as load monitoring, I rely heavily on triangulation, which basically means using several inputs and then merging these together to paint a picture. So here we use both internal RPEs and external load, GPS, heart rate, or you can say, of course, internal is also heart rate. So you put that back to internal,
objective,
as well
subjective,
as well as observation of players in training, analysis of video, and communication with players. So that's a lot of points, but all this input hopefully provides a better understanding and more holistic view of the team and the individual player. And then, of course, you can, on each of these, you can have the different inputs and game references in terms of maybe load management in that sense.
When I like what you said, like with making a skeleton, and then with other methods you make like a painting of that. You're making sense of the data. And also I like that you mentioned video, because sometimes we as a physical coaches, when we check GPS, RP and something, we not so often check the video analysis of the training session or the game where we collect the data. And I think this is a big missing link for us, and I think that this communication with physical coach and video analyst or performance analyst should be like, constantly. And here we need to find some kind of a models that will be combined, in the future. But this is topic for itself.
Yeah, but also in the feedback for the players, because if I can approach the player and then I know about our playing style, so I can make feedback which relates to the playing style, which relate to the player position, with not just numbers, with video of the players actually doing their actions or not doing their actions.
Or not doing,
I believe we can get a better understanding and a shared mutual agreement of what we should focus on, rather than just throwing GPS numbers all over the place.
That's it. And I think that we as a physical coach should go, into this direction, talking more about football language, using football actions to explain the data that we collect. And I know in Croatia, this is something that is quite not often, when you try to explain from the tactical and technical perspective how you collect the data. But I think that the things are changing and that the coaches and players are accepting this, and I think it can be a big game changer for the buy-in of the data and all of the things.
Yeah, 100%.
We continue. And I think this one, it's quite good. And I like this topic always: periodization, programming, and testing. This is something that is like combined, and I combine this question often. So when it comes to testing, what kind of test do you like? Do you use, prefer? And how do you use this testing into programming, let's say preseason or in season?
Well, my first approach is that we should be able to explain why, what, how, and when we test things. So, for example, as for preseason, this starts with looking backwards to what they have completed during their off-season or should have completed during their off-season, and how well they follow their sort of individual programs. So it starts already there, but I need to have a good communication with players even during off-season to have regular check-ins. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in their face all the time. But then we also have that time period, but due to sort of international competition, this window tends to get smaller and smaller. But that sort of starts, so where we sort of ended the previous season, and then how do we sort of maintain a sort of a general fitness over time for where we start. And then at the start of the preseason, I would want to assess the player's level coming back from the break and determine sort of entry points on different physical qualities, such as strength, mobility, conditioning, and speed. Which tests and why will be a little bit changed from depending on where we turn in terms of club and so forth. What's been done historically? What do we need to add in terms of what's been missing? What hasn't been in place before? Or if there's something that we believe this will be valuable to add because it gives us information which we currently don't have. So that would be around those, you could say, 4 pillars like strength, mobility, conditioning, and speed. In terms of that.
Yeah, these are the most important ones to make the whole picture about the player, where he is, and I like how you connect the off season with preseason and the goal that you want to accomplish. But let's say when it comes to a specific test in endurance, let's say, which one do you prefer? Because we can see a lot of like different combinations in clubs. I remember in one club we changed that club changed 5 different endurance tests. It was yo-yo, beep test, 30 to 15, then again yo-yo, then they went for Bila test. Which one do you use in that category?
Yeah, well, previously, like way back, I've been using more of the yo-yo test, like a field test, and switching a lot more now to maybe the 30-15, which gives you something that you can use for later purpose. But also then, how do we assess maybe MAS in terms of working with the players in different compensation trainings or sessions, which we then can sort of individualize a little bit more. So that's where maybe the route has taken me so far, connected to progression on the field, really.
Yeah, so this is also good that what I say to my students and to coaches in the mentorship program, like just play, test, try to see what you will get, change the test after some time, see what is the best for you. Don't use, okay, we should check the literature, but try to check by yourself, test it, use it, see if this is working or not, then change. It's like a playground in strength conditioning to see what is the best option.
And not only use like so those ones that we talked about was sort of maximal fitnesses, but also the use of like sub-maximal fitnesses, which can be incorporated during warm-up
in training sessions. That's it, warm-up. Yeah.
Which then also it's slightly easier to administer, especially in a condensed schedule.
That's it. Yeah.
But I mean, you still have all the things that we discussed before on a load monitoring site. So you have GPS, you have wellness, you have observation. You have a lot already in place, and then these are maybe more things that you do on a sort of more macro level, which has a little bit more time in between.
Yeah, we are already using this kind of data in training sessions, so why not to use that data for testing or monitoring purposes? It's like a combination right now, checking how they are reacting on the dose that we gave them, like load and response. I will go now from endurance part to the strength part. And when it comes to strength training sessions, and let's say maybe testing these qualities or not to test them in football, this is a question also. And how do you do the strength training? We have a lot of philosophies before session, after session, during the main session. How do you see strength training in football or resistance training?
Yeah, well, this should be connected to the sort of overall plan you implement in a club, with the strength training as a sort of natural part from training from youth to senior level. And I like to sort of take a simplification of the force velocity curve. Like it could be like create, transfer, and tolerate. So create means that we have to have strength training to sort of create the ability to create force in that sense. Transfer. What do we do in terms of preparation training? So warm up. What do we do? What can we drop in there to facilitate the transfer? And then tolerate. So how do we expose players for explosive, integrated, or isolated training drills with long or short rest? So if we sort of hit all these buckets, and if we go back to the strength buckets, make sure that in the strength training we have progressions from the different sort of foundational movements that we could say, like whole body explosive, lower body push pull, upper body push pull. In core, if you could sort of say that in terms of anti-rotation, extension, lateral flexion, and then from a youth perspective, a little but often high variation, gradually increasing complexity and load, from more playful challenge tasks where they're developing strength without thinking it's strength training, to more mastering tasks, how to lift for a little bit
Again, education of younger players.
So maybe the first part from like I said, from 6 to 10, where it's playful challenge tasks, and then when they hit 11 to 16, and then it's a little bit more mastering tasks and more consistently, and then senior level from 16 upwards, more collective and individual programs done, as you said, done in pre-activation. So what do you do there before training? And then strength training, post-training, what do you do there? So you start and you end. And I'm leaning more and more towards sort of everyday microdosing rather than just big general sessions. Not to say that big or general sessions are bad, but to be more efficient, specifically during in-season where the match turnovers change. So that means that you have to be a little bit more proactive in terms of maybe microdosing versus the preseason where it's more controlled microcycles when we train, when we play games. So in preseason, we develop our periodization plan with loading and recovery phases in both sort of vertical, so gradual progress in terms of training load, and then also horizontal alternation, so loading alternation from day to day. And when the game starts, we're just adding the tapering phase. So we means that we have the building blocks and we didn't have to adapt when the match turnovers change, and then zoom out and then look maybe from year to year. So, and from player to player, that we see hopefully progression, especially when we work with young players, but also with senior players. I mean, there's a lot of senior players that can still develop even if you're 36-year-old.
Training age is something that it's experience in training age, something that is important, and we sometimes forget. I totally agree with your philosophy, especially with the younger players, because we sometimes forget that they are now in our club or in our organization, but maybe after 2 years they will leave somewhere else and they will start to do maybe some other exercises or some other methodology. And besides improving their quality, I think we also need to, like you said, teach them on some levels what they need to know as a physical education when they are 12, 13, 14. We need to develop strength, but we also need to teach them some basic movements in strength exercises, change of direction, these kind of things.
And especially if we look at the women's side, then I mean, it's been shown maybe from the works from Stacey Edmonds from Leeds Beckett University, like the gap between the exposure of strength and conditioning from girls to boys. So we need to mind the gap, and we need to have, you could say, strength and conditioning for girls in a greater extent from an earlier age. That's still you could say still progressively, gradually. So it's not about throwing all the people in the deep end and then try to swim. But no, it's about putting the resources equally in that sense. So having the opportunities to commence in fitness training, both on the girls and the boys side.
Yeah, and this is again one important topic, and I think we can record another episode on the female part of the story and the female sports. And I know, because I also spent and still I am here in 10 years in female football, and we have also a huge gap, in facilities, in education and physical literacy here, but I think it's improving. And our club, female team Dynamo, I think here is a leader in this, and they are constantly using technology, equipment, and so on. And just right now, we would like to do. Hey, do you hear this siren? Now
No.
I will repeat myself here, just to close the door. Okay. I will repeat this answer just to write this down because some siren was crazy outside, and I was thinking that maybe you will hear this, but yeah, just to write. Okay. Uh, so I will repeat the answer. Okay. Yeah, I agree totally with you, especially about this topic in male and female teams, and there is a huge gap also in Croatia. But and I'm working here for the last 10 years, but this club female team Dynamo is constantly increasing, and he's a leader in innovations. And now the girls are having GPS data, wall data, and we are testing. And just right now, next week we will start one research to see how they are responding. We will test with walled equipment, counter movement, and Nordic. We will track internal load and GPS, and then after a session, we will repeat the test, and we will do this every day. Every day for let's say 4 weeks, and we would like to see what we're gonna collect. And I think that we need to get even more data here in this female side, like you said. But to get back on the topic of strength training and testing, we all saw that there is a lot of different equipment outside, and we are using a lot of equipment. And just before 1 year, I started to use a lot of valve technology, dynamos, Nordics, and do you use this kind of equipment? What is your experience with force plates and devices?
Uh, we're not currently having them in the national team setting.
Yeah.
But in the different club settings. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
yeah, the testing programs in the different clubs. So both testing and then also a training
Yeah.
advisor in that sense, because you can use that in every week training.
Yeah.
So it's one part of the toolbox, which
That's it. Yeah.
you have.
Yeah. And a great one can give you like a amazing insight what is happening in the engine of the athlete. And it's good, like part of the flexible testing, like you said. It's quite quick. You can train your hamstrings or let's say jumps and immediately collect a bunch of data. But to get back to the gaming day, and you mentioned something on a game day and tapering period, on a game day, and this is where we come to our last question, and it's about game day priming and compensation session. It's one of the questions that is also popular in the last few years, especially for the substitute players. And this is where it comes to I'm coming to the question for you. So what's your routine for a game day, priming, and how your players are preparing mentally and physically for the game, match day -1 and on a match day?
Well, it goes back to our planning and to the training during the training week with the loading phase, and then connected to especially the match day minus match day 1 in order to be prepared. The game day priming is used as an individual level. If you specifically talk about the game day itself, where maybe the prime as well pre-game meal could be favorable, but also a pre-game meeting with the staff, where we go through the game day tactics and the scenarios, and also the squad in terms of possible or most likely substitutions. Because we often talk about sort of the game day priming only for the players, for the coaching staff, because this meeting, it sort of provides a lot, because it's done where everyone is in a calm state without the arousal of the game, and before the shit hits the fan, so to speak.
I like this sentence. Yeah, and in Croatia we have like few traditions. Let's say on a game day. Can you hear me? Now? No? How is now? Give me a second. Just a sec.
Yeah. Now. Hello?
Now, yes.
Yeah. Now.
You can hear me also?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I will finish. I will finish without the headphones. Maybe something with them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to write this part from 56 minutes. This is a classical thing, especially when we work with technology. I need to write down. Hey, you hear me good?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So to continue. So in Croatia, we had one tradition. Let's say on a game day, some coaches like to go for a walk in the morning when we have an afternoon game. Some of them would like to do some kind of an activation program. And I had one Spanish coach who done set pieces, at on a game day in the morning. And well, the feedback was good because we won all of the games. But do you have any kind of traditions like this in your country in clubs?
Yes, and I would say the most common one is the one that you started with, like a game day walk and so forth. But we've also seen more and more teams incorporating a sort of a priming session, either in the gym or sometimes on the pitch. But that's where I was alluding to before in the answer. So this could be individual in terms of priming session in the gym, for example. And then there's, of course, the pre-game meal also connected to that, because it will work for some, but some live quite far from the club, so it would just detour their whole day in terms of that. So you should think and implement those strategies that are valid for your club, given your external factors. But at least we have provided a few here in the talk that could be interesting to evaluate, for example.
Yeah,
but
that's
then,
it.
Yeah, and then you also then come into the game day, and then you have the starters and the subs, and then you have to manage that afterwards also.
Yeah, it all comes to, like you said, external factors, environment, and what's your club's philosophy and the players. But I like what you said. It can be quite individual. Some players could do some strength session. Some of them can do any type of mobility work or activation. Okay, there should be some maybe small part that all of them should do, like because it's good for them. But yeah, it all comes to education and the level of experience and so on. Johan, I think that we managed to cover all of the topics here that I'm checking. Well, for me, it was quite fast, because it was so interesting, and we cover all of the important topics. And I think now it's time to wrap up the whole thing. And so my few last questions or sentences to you is that, what advice would you give to, let's say, young coaches when they want to specialize in strength conditioning? And the second thing is that, do you have any upcoming projects that you are working on, and what future projects for you?
Well, advice or young coaches, I believe that education and attend conferences, to be out there, but also more importantly to make connections, visit clubs, coaches, and organizations. Yeah. Theorize what they're doing. So theorize what they're doing. So zoom out, reflect, and then continuously apply within your own setting. So theorize and zoom out in terms of what are they doing on a principal level, and then apply within your own setting. And as far as projects that we have at the moment, we believe that we have a lot of things going on in the Swedish FA on both coach education and player education, such as developing our fitness courses even more. So the coach education, how can we integrate our coach education specialists? So from core program, goalkeeping, football psychology, and ourselves even more in the different educational pathways to work together with the clubs and the districts around the country, and then also with league organizations. University level, so how can we cooperate with them in regards of football science group, in terms of research, work experience, student papers, and academy level development of national fitness reference tests, and how could we sort of develop these, and that could be serving as a guideline or frame of reference for players, coaches, and instructors. So the football fitness progress can be visualized from year to year or a 3-year span. And then coming all back down to grassroots level, so how could we implement, injury reduction programs a little bit often on every pitch around the country, programs like FIFA 11 Plus, FIFA Plus, knee control. So how could we further develop that, and also looking at the facilities both on the elite level but also on the grassroots level, and the training grounds in every community. So could an outdoor gym be placed near every small training ground, connected to each training pitch, and so forth? So it's all about the big perspective, all the down to the smaller perspective. Yeah.
Or bottom up, top down approach. Exactly. To cover everything. Perfect. I think these are all of the good advices, especially these conferences, the visiting clubs. Well, this is how we met, so it's a good opportunity to meet great and amazing people. And the last thing, where our listeners can they connect with you? Where they can follow your work? Is it LinkedIn, Instagram, or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. They can find me on LinkedIn. So Johan Lundberg, and they can also find me on X or Instagram at J2_Johan, or just send me an email. So I'll be happy to respond.
Great. Johan, thank you one more time for this episode. I really enjoyed in this one. We covered, as I mentioned already, great topics, your insight. I think that all of them will enjoy in this one. So thank you one more time.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise, it's. I think it was a good conversation. I almost forgot that I didn't have a coffee, so that's just it just felt like that.
Yeah, it was like I said, we are discussing great topics: football, physical conditioning, drinking coffee. So simple one. Yeah, it was fast. And the last message from everybody who is listening: follow us on Ultrax website, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have, again, few other episodes that you can check. Webinars. We are having also some upcoming webinars. So follow everything. Stay tuned, everyone. And until next time. So thank you, Johan, one more time. And all the best with your projects in FA Federation and at the universities and so on.
Thank you. Thank you, Marco. Have a good one.